Bumping uncomfortably about among the queer things inside Grimalda's stuffy black bag, Spook could hear her racing footsteps as she sped along the street. Was there a pattering of other footsteps as well? He could not be sure. There was a light thud as Grimalda mounted the broom, now in flying position, settled the bag on the handle in front of her, and shrilled her command, "Away!" But the broom failed to take off. With its customary smooth thrust into the air, Spook felt as if something heavy had caught onto one end. It wobbled uncertainly, but would not rise. "What's this? Who's there?" shrieked Grimilda, thrashing about. "Get off at once!" "I won't," said another voice. "It was Jamie's." "Not unless you give me that little black dog." "Give you that little black dog, indeed!" cried Grimalda indignantly. "It's clear you have no notion of private property, whoever you are. Spook is my property, and so is this broom. Now get off!" Spook heard the sound of scuffling and a slapping noise as Grimalda went on screaming, "Get off!" And Jamie panted, "I won't!" Stay on, Spook barked excitedly. Then he stopped to listen again. Grimalda was shouting, "You can't stay on this broom! You are some sort of human, aren't you? It's against all the rules!" And to the broom, "Now away! Away!" The broom struggled frantically to obey, and at last, lurching this way and that, it rose into the air. Spook, and whatever the things were in Grimalda's bag, rolled against each other, like ship's cargo in the storm at sea. First he jostled against something hard, and then something soft. Something scratched his nose, and something rapped him sharply on the head. "Ouch!" growled Spook, scrambling to get his head up and his feet down. "I wonder whether Jamie is on or off." He thought he had righted himself. "Oh, on, I hope." Outside on the broom handle, Grimalda seemed to have grown calmer. "If you don't get off," she was saying, "at least sit still so as to steady this broom while I think what is to be done with you." "Jamie is still on the broom," sighed Spook to himself. He tried poking his nose a little bit against the top of the bag. The wild commotion of their takeoff must have loosened the cord that held it shut, for it gave quite easily at his touch, and in a moment the bag sagged wide open. Spook found something solid beneath him that he could brace himself on, and by giving a little wiggle, he was able to push his head cautiously outside just as they cleared the whispering branches of a hickory tree. They staggered higher into the sky, and Spook's nose quivered gratefully at the cool rush of autumny air that greeted him. Grimalda sat in her customary side saddle position, hunched in thought. Behind her was Jamie, astraddle the broom straws, both hands thrust before him for balance, his eyes wide and watchful on Grimilda. Spook dared not signal to him in any way for fear of dislodging the boy's hold on the broom or attracting Grimalda's attention. In a little while they were flying more evenly, and peering over the top of the bag, Spook could see the streets and houses following in twinkling ribbons below them, gradually giving way to woodland and meadow, veiled and quiet. In fact, so peaceful was their progress after the evening's excitement, he found himself almost enjoying a ride on the broomstick for once, especially since Jamie was riding on the broomstick too. "If only I knew what was to become of us when we land," he thought. The moon was traveling very high above them when Spook's keen ears caught the sound, faint but clear, of a faraway cawing. He strained his eyes into a shadowy night, and before long 2 immense black crows appeared, passed them, wheeled at some distance, and headed back. They were the sentinel crows from the witch's cave. Were they coming to see if Grimalda had used up her tricks? He glanced at the witch, but she took no notice. Instead, she straightened abruptly and plunged her hand into the black bag. Careful to keep his head clear of the top, Spook tucked in his tail and pulled his legs close to himself. "I don't want you, stupid," Grimalda muttered as her scratching fingers pinched one of Spook's legs. Presently her hand closed over something else and withdrew it from the bag of tricks. "Ah, you will do, little beauty," she crooned. "You and I will contrive some special misery to fit this tiresome boy, to make him wish he had never been so eager to travel with us." In the palm of his upturned hand, Grimalda held a tiny red cap. A jaunty sliver of a feather stuck to its band. "You are the shrinking cap, I believe," Grimalda said to it. "Now listen carefully to what I wish you to do. I will put you on the boy's head. Cling tightly. Don't let go of him. Very quickly he must shrink, dwindle, shrivel, smaller, 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 until he's a tiny thing, no bigger than my fist, just the right size to fit you. Then I'll reach into my pocket and bring out a bottle of Fix-It. Spray you both, and there you'll be, fixed forever to the handle of my broom, an ornament anyone would envy." She grinned triumphantly and waved the little cap at Jamie. "How about that for a Halloween trick?" "Oh, no," begged Jamie. "Please, Cap, don't shrink me. Please don't." "You keep out of this, boy," snapped Grimalda. "This cap must obey my command. Besides, it's time I began to use up my tricks." Even as she spoke, however, the two black crows bore down upon her with beaks stretched wide, their hoarse cries ripping the air. Grimalda flung up one arm to drive them off, sweeping the little red cap from its perch. Spook peered again over the top of the bag to watch the cap as it tumbled away into the darkness below, as he had done so few hours earlier. What astonished creature might it happen to land upon, he wondered, and began at once to obey Grimilda's command. "Cling tightly! Don't let go! Shrink! Smaller! Smaller!" The little dog shivered and returned his attention to the witch and the scolding crows. "Go away! Be off!" Grimalda screamed at them. "No, I won't come with you! I won't! I have further business I must attend to!" The harsh cawing of the crows reminded Spook strongly of the head witch herself. "I have the familiar right here!" Grimalda shrieked back at them. "I had to put him in the bag because he tried to get away. Yes, I know the boy is not allowed, but he's just getting off. He's here without permission anyway. I have used some of my tricks. Well, so far only 2, but there's still plenty of time. Oh, go away!" For some agitated moments she continued to fend off the circling birds, while Jamie and Spook ducked down to avoid their flapping wings. Then suddenly, quite suddenly, Grimalda's arms dropped to her lap. She seemed to shrink a little herself, and in a moment the broom was proceeding peacefully once more. The 2 crows flying silently on either side. "Where to?" thought Spook. Nice and quick. We'll do chapter 7 tomorrow.